Well, good morning. Thank you for coming to Happy Rock Church and joining us online. We're going to go ahead and enter into some praise and worship today. So why don't you go ahead and stand with us and let's enter into it. Father, we love you, Jesus. We're so thankful for you, God, and your goodness and your faithfulness today, Jesus. The weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper. And when the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. And my God will never fail. Oh, my God will never fail. And I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. And I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Down from any giants, 'cause I know how this story ends. Yes, I do, Jesus. I know how this story ends. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. And I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. And I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. And for the battle belongs to you, Lord. And I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Yes, it does, Jesus. God, we're calling on you today, Father, because you're the one that has the plan. God, you're the one that can see us through, Jesus, through every battle, every war, God. So you take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Come on, sing that again. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Sing it again. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Yes, been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. And you have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I was your foe, still your love fought for me. 'Cause you have been, and you have been so, so good to me. God, when I felt no worth, when I felt no worth, and you paid it all for me. And you have been so, so kind to me. Sing it out today. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't hurt it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Hallelujah, Jesus, God. Oh, we love you, Father. Jesus, you're so worthy, God. You're worthy of our praise. Father, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that God, even living in a world that seems to be out of control and chaos and just trouble and hatred and anger, God, that Father, you are so faithful and you still love us, God, and you still want us to come to you. You're still waiting on us and you're chasing after us, Father, and you don't give up on us. And you have a plan. God, you have a plan. Even when everything else is going wrong, you still have a plan, Jesus. And I'm just in awe of your goodness today and your kindness towards us. God, I pray that as we continue our service today, Jesus, that you would allow us, Father, allow us, God, to find you today. God, whatever that looks like, God, whether it's somebody who's never been to church before, whether it's a lifelong Christian, God, that just needs a reboost, God, whatever it is, that we would find you today, God, and you would recharge our hearts, Jesus, so that we not only can live this life, we don't want to just survive, but God, to thrive through it. Thank you, God, for what you're doing today, Jesus, and what you're going to continue to do in your precious and mighty name. Amen. Well, this is a time in our service where Pastor Ben and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving, because everybody knows, obviously, that when you have a home, it takes money to keep the lights on. It takes money to feed your family, things like that. And it's the same with our church. And it's not the building that makes the church, it's the people. And we could have this building and we could, pay for it and things like that. But if we didn't have the people in it, then we wouldn't have Happy Rock. Because we used to be a portable church before we were given this building. We were given this building. And God, worked it all out. It's just an amazing story. But if we didn't have that, if we had the people, then that's what the church is. And so Ben and I, as your pastors, we just want to say thank you for being so generous. That we have the ability to open our doors every single week for those to come in person and online. That we have the ability to proclaim Jesus' name, to worship together like this. Because how many of you know right now that if we didn't have a building today and we were outside, it probably wouldn't be as much fun. It just wouldn't. We'd be all soggy and the sound equipment wouldn't work and things like that. But because you give, we're able to do it in an environment, in an atmosphere that's comfortable, that's warm, it's inviting. And so for those of you online and here in person, thank you for being so generous, because what you're doing is helping people find and follow Jesus every single week. If it wasn't for people like you that give, that sacrifice and give maybe of their time, our serve team gives their time, maybe treasures of giving financially, and your prayers and things like that. If you didn't do that, we would not be able to do what God has called us to do as a church family. So thank you. If you have never given or you'd like to partner with us today, there are 2 ways that you can do that. They'll be up on your screen for you to see, either online or here in person. But thank you for giving. And if you do give today, there's a generosity box on your way out. It's right on the right-hand side. It's a white box that you can drop that into. But thank you. Thank you for sacrificing. Thank you in times that maybe you just didn't have it, but you knew God was calling you to give, that you did anyway, because you are changing people's lives every single week because of it. So thank you again. You can go ahead and have a seat as we check out church news today.
Hi, my name's Heather, and we're so glad that you joined us today at Happy Rock Church. If you're a first-time guest, we want to say welcome, and we have a free gift for you. There are multiple ways that you can receive that gift. If you're online with us, you can click the connection card link in the video description, or you can text the word new to the number that's on your screen right now. If you're in person with us, you can take out the yellow This Is Home card, fill it out, and take it to the yellow room, which is our Welcome Center. Also, if you're new to Happy Rock, we would love to invite you to our upcoming Welcome Night. This is a night where you can come and hear more about Happy Rock Church and who we are, meet some staff, and have some free food on us. Sounds pretty great, right? If you'd like to RSVP for the Welcome Night, you can text the word welcome to the number that's on your screen right now. Here at Happy Rock, we don't want something from you, but we want something for you. So let's get ready for the message, because we know that God has something incredible for you today.
So is everybody awake this morning? Did you miss that hour of sleep last night? I was telling our team this morning, they know that anytime it comes to daylight savings in any way, fall back, spring forward, whatever it is, I do not sleep well. Because years ago, one time when we were worship pastors, one morning our alarm did not go off, and so we were scrambling, and it was just not a good experience. And so from then on, my mom's like, well, when you do fall back, you're not gonna be late. I'm like, but I'm still scared. I'm still afraid that I'm gonna be late or something. And so last night, I told my team, I said, I actually slept last night. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And got up this morning, we were ready to go.
Good.
So our team, when we got here, they're like, I'm tired. I was like, I'm good, I'm ready, So this morning, we're so glad that you're here, whether you're in person or online. We're glad that you have come because we know God has something incredible for you. If you
Yes.
are joining us online, we want to say welcome. We're glad that you're here as well. Take a moment to like and share our YouTube video right now, because it's just another opportunity for us to proclaim Jesus, to invite somebody to church. It's an invite.
Yeah.
That's what the share is. So
I'm actually doing it right now.
Yes, Pastor Ben is.
As we are live in
I
service,
forgot my
because I
phone.
forgot to do it prior to worship starting. So
Really quick, on your seat, if you're here in person, on your seat you received a service guide. We usually would hand them out, but because of COVID and everything, we're kind of trying to do the least amount of touching as possible. So you also received an Easter invite on there. We have Easter at Happy Rock coming up in 3 weeks. I can't believe Easter's already here.
coming soon, quick.
But we started
Quick,
this
quick.
last week, and we're going to continue up until the 28th. There will be an Easter invite on your chair every single week. We're challenging you to invite one person to Easter each week. It's a challenge. And I know that some of you may not be used to that, but it's just a challenge. Take it as that. If you're like, well, I know I can definitely do at least one, then do at least one, but take the others and just pray for those divine appointments that maybe God will present to you to invite somebody to church. If you're online with us, though, there will be multiple opportunities for you to get in the sharing mode as well. We're going to have some Facebook stuff coming up that you can share through email and things like that. So make sure you join our newsletter here or online or in person. Join our newsletter, because we have some exciting things coming up about Easter and ways that you can share our invite videos on Facebook. There's going to be a video that's coming out from Pastor Ben about ways to invite if you're scared. We have that coming, I believe it's this week as well.
How do you know when it's time to invite somebody?
Yeah.
I got your back. You're going to get that video, and you'll know exactly when to do it.
Exactly.
It's gonna be great. It's
But
gonna be
make
good.
sure you join our newsletter, though, so that we can get you connected with that, so that you can have more opportunities to say, okay, I feel like I'm ready to invite somebody and I know what to do. Connect Night is tonight. So last week, if you were here or you saw our message online, you saw that I had the hardest time talking last week.
True.
I did. I messed up like 4 times during
Words
that.
can be hard.
It was hard. So I am going to do better today. So the Connect Night is tonight at 6:30. So Jenny's going to be throwing that slide on the screen for you to see. So the Connect Night is tonight at 6:30. The Connect Night is for those of you who have been coming to Happy Rock and you're like, okay, this is somewhere that I really want to get involved. I want to join the serve team and I want to get involved and start putting some ownership here, because I feel like this is the place that I'm supposed to be.
Make a difference.
Make a difference.
Make a
So
difference.
if you don't know what your purpose is, we actually help you. We have a little kind of like quiz that you take. Basically, it's like a personality test and a gifts test, so you could figure out your purpose, and you can start making a difference in that purpose on one of our teams. So if you would like to come to the Connect Night, or it's like, I just like to learn more about it. I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be, but like to learn more about your serve team. you can text the word connect to that number that's on your screen right now, and we will make sure to get in contact with you today so you can make it tonight. So that's all we had to say for that. We are continuing our It's Complicated series, and today we are talking about marriage. And it's going to be a little PG-13, okay? So just letting you know, if you have, kiddos that are watching online or kids in here that you don't really want to hear it, it's not going to go in detail, but
It's not detailed, but it is direct.
Yes.
So just be aware, be prepared for that, parents. But if you are currently married, you know it's complicated, right? You know it, or maybe if you've been married before, but you aren't now. It's still complicated. It's still complicating your life right now. Or maybe you are married again. Complicated. There are so many complications. And listen, don't tune out today if you're a single individual, if you're listening or whatnot. Maybe you're not even in a dating relationship. This is going to prepare you for those future relationships, but it's also really going to be a good thing because what we're talking about today really centers around relationship building of all different types, not just married relationships. So if you want to have healthier relationships, the things we're talking about today will help your marriage, but they will also help you just in dealing with other people and not like chasing them away, when in the middle of conflict, in the middle of tougher situations. And so our key verses or passage really that we've been going through in It's Complicated come out of Romans chapter 1. So we're going to start in verse 21 where Paul is addressing this and he's saying, okay, there are a number of people in the world who have just said, God's not real. He doesn't exist, so I don't believe in him. And so he's describing these individuals. He said, okay, because they believe this and they act like this, they became worthless in their thinking. They're godless. They've got pointless reasonings. I talked about that a couple of Sundays ago, just pointless reasonings and silly speculations. Their foolish heart was darkened. And while claiming to be wise, they really just became fools. It just wasn't what they thought it was, or really it isn't. All the thoughts they're having and the things that they are prioritizing and thinking are important, it's really not as important as they think. They're being fools. Because, verse 25, we're actually skipping to verse 25, because by choice they exchanged the truth of God for a lie. And lies are bad. They deceive. They trick us into going a different way than what we would have been going. And that's where many of us live our lives, is based off of lies.
And lies don't unify us at all.
No.
And so talking about marriage today, unity is a major theme in the Bible, like throughout. You can find it all over the place. In the Old Testament, we talk about how Old Testament is great for historical value for us because we live by the New Testament, but Old Testament, we can still learn so many valuable lessons from it. And so it shows us God's perspective on many things. Maybe methods God used to guide us now are different than they were in the Old Testament, but his character hasn't changed. God's nature and his character are exactly the same that he was back in the Old Testament. So he wants unity for us in our marriages. He really does. Sure. But the question is how do we become one? When you marry that person or you're going to marry or whatever, when you decided to say, I'm going to be faithfully yours forever, and you became one, we tease our daughters all the time that when they ask us a question, or like I already gave them an answer and they try to go to dad, like he'll say, remember me and your mom are one. So if she already said something, then that's what I agree with too. I don't know the situation, but if she said it, then I agree with her, and they're like, that is so dumb. That is so dumb that you're not one person, but we're like, no, but we decided to unify together as two people that support each other, and we're teammates. Mm-hmm. We were on the same team. And so how do we do this? Well, Genesis 2:24 says it like this: for this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and shall be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And we've heard this at so many weddings, that they say this. But exactly what does this mean, this shall be joined part? Well, married, okay, that's what we're talking about. So made legal by the government rule we live under. So when a man and woman become together in marriage, they don't always agree on everything, see things the exact same way, but problem solve. That's the key. Truth. Problem solving together to be joined, unified, to complement. Ben says this all the time, that That when you get married, you're supposed to, or dating somebody, you're supposed to complement each other. You're supposed to complement each other. And so the things that Ben has that he's really great at, which the list is very long, and he could play basically any instrument, pick it up, and didn't know how to play it. And he's like, oh, what's this? You know, and he'll just like play or whatever. But he has this incredible ability to do that. I don't. I took guitar lessons and bass lessons and keyboard lessons, all this stuff. And I just could not have that natural knack for it. But there's things, Ben says that he can't sing like I do, And so the thing is if people practice long enough, you probably could. But he has that natural gift of doing those things. And so we complement each other. He plays amazingly and I sing with him. And so it makes a big difference. We complement each other. And that's what marriage has to be, not only in the physical form of the day-to-day things, but your spiritual life need to complement each other.
Right, and we touched on this last week as one kind of major point. I just feel like I need to mention it one more time today, if you've missed any of these messages and you want to get caught up, we talked about the single life and how valuable it really can be, and it's not better or worse than married, it's just different. It's a different stage of life, it's a different season, but if you are incomplete, if you feel incomplete as a person when you're by yourself, adding another person to the mix will not complete you. It will just make it more complicated. You will start grabbing onto people and be dependent on them to feel complete, and that's going to cause a lot of emotional stress and struggle and trouble for you. We are complete individuals on our own. We are meant to complement one another, not in the way of saying, you look pretty today, you're amazing. But rather, our skills and the things that we're good at, all of that, those things are meant to complement one another so that when we come together like this, I don't have all the gifts that there are. Neither does Heather. And neither do any one of you, but when we all come together in the same room, we are never more like Jesus than when we are together because he's got all the gifts. And together, we have all the gifts. But apart, we don't. We're lacking in one way or another. But let's get into this in marriage. So we're talking about this mentioned one flesh. Now it's more than just sex. This is unity, like she's talking about. It's being together. It's acting as one. It's having the same future together, connected until death comes. And that is an active thing that both members of the relationship of a marriage have to be on board with, or it's not going to work. Both members have to be seeing this the exact same way. Otherwise, it will most likely end worse. But being connected as deeply as humans can possibly be, the Bible points to the fact that sex is the only way for that to happen. To be as deeply emotionally connected as possible, that's what sex does. But notice that it's one flesh comes through sex after shall be joined, not before. After shall be joined, and there are reasons for this. There's an awful lot of specifics for this because if you have had sex before your marriage or to a different person than what you're married now, some things never leave your mind. Some things you can recall from 10 years ago. Pictures, visual things, all of these things. That stuff will never leave you, and what that ends up doing is sometimes it can rob you of your ability to connect more fully and more emotionally to the person that you are currently with. That's why God says in the Bible, God tells us and teaches us, stay away from these sexual relationships until you are with the person that you're planning to be with the rest of your life. Because if you don't, it's going to cause trouble. Once you find that person and you want to be with them forever, it's going to cause trouble there for you. So Ephesians chapter 5, if it's happening outside of legalized marriage, it's trouble. It causes us trouble up here in our minds and emotionally speaking. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 3 is talking about this. Sexual immorality, all moral impurity, which means just indecent, offensive behavior, or greed. So these three things are listed specifically, must not even be hinted at among you, as is proper among the saints. For as believers in our way of life, whether in public or in private, and here's where it lands. These three things, let me reiterate here: sexual immorality, moral impurity, just offensive behavior, not treating people with disrespect and not caring what anyone else thinks about you to the point that you're being highly disrespectful to people, and greed. All of these things, if we jump to the very end, we see reflects the validity of our faith. In other words, how valid your faith in God really is based off of how much you're allowing God to change your life and your behavior and your choices. And if you're not allowing that to happen, it's the validity of your faith. You may be thinking, oh, I'm good with God. But if he doesn't have your heart, he doesn't have you yet. If he doesn't have you, he doesn't have you.
That's right. And so basically, what Pastor Ben is saying about the sexual immorality is, because some people are like, well, what exactly is that? So it's any sexual activity that is pursued outside a godly endorsed marriage. That's basically what sexual immorality is. So understand that some people are only married on paper. We have seen many people throughout ministry that they really, and it's so sad because Pastor Ben and I, we became best friends before we started dating. And, we weren't always the smartest people when we were younger. Still aren't, no. I'm trying to just compare us to what we are now.
Yeah, okay.
We're a lot smarter now than we were, and we still have so much to learn. But I'm just so thankful that we became best friends first, because we've had, in any marriage, we've had so many hard things that have happened, deaths in the family, or friends, or even friends of ours that have been going through divorces and wanting us to pick sides, or, whatever. Like, it's been, and then our own, we fought over finances, our first.
Oh my gosh.
like 3 years of
We
marriage.
fought so much about money in the beginning.
We did.
Because we just came from different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
I was a saver, she was not. Therefore,
I was a generous giver.
We could
okay?
not,
I'm going to say
yes.
that, okay? I'm not going to say spender, because it really was more like, hey, this person needs something. Let's just go. Let's give them $200. Let's, you know what I mean? Because that's how my dad was. He was a pastor and very generous. And so Ben's like, no, we need to save every single penny. So when he walked, he squeaked. So it was good that we kind of, worked through that. Did Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey will save your marriage if you're fighting over finances. But we are so much further along now than we were. And I'm thankful that we became friends. But we didn't always make the best decisions.
No.
But and we didn't always get it right when we fought, but because we were friends, we understood that was more important. Like, we were friends. We need to be best friends at the end of the day. We're on the same team. And so Jesus went further with the sexual immorality in Matthew 5:28. And he was talking about, look at someone wanting to get, with another person. He was talking about, like, even if you have looked at them, or even like in your mind, you've crossed into that sexual immorality territory that you're like, well, I haven't physically done anything, so I really haven't really made a mistake or, sinned. But even thinking about a relationship with somebody else, or thinking with, you know what I mean? And we were talking about how sometimes last week, I think it was, or the first week, we talked about, you're working with somebody alongside of somebody, and you're not getting exactly what you need from your spouse in the emotional department. Your love tank's kind of full, but this person at work understands me. This person listens to me. This person, and eventually it can turn into something sexual. I mean, that
Absolutely.
It does. And so we have to be careful with our eyes and our mind, not just men, women as well. Because I think a lot of times people say, well, men are the only ones that have trouble with pornography. Men are the only ones that think, dirty thoughts or whatever. No, it's women too. Okay, it's women too. So we all have to be careful. Well, marriage is complicated, like Pastor Ben said, but it doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. If we have the right tools that we put in place, and we put those certain things, and we put that person before ourselves, and we choose to put their
That's
needs
key.
before our own. So getting back to the original question, how do we become one with each other? But a good follow-up question as well is, how do we stay united as one?
Yep. How do we become one? How do we stay as one? Now, we've got some tips for you today, but I want you to hear me. Singles in the room, singles online, if you're listening to this, don't tune out, because much of the same exact stuff applies to any relationship you want to build from here on out. If you want it to be strong, good, positive, healthy, these tips still apply. They just work. They're really geared for marriage. They work really well for that. So let's start off. Let's understand that no marriage is perfect. Pastor Heather and I, on the outside, and while we're here, we don't fight in front of people. We don't argue, so no one really sees that side of us. But we do plenty of that at home. Okay,
We call it intense fellowship.
It's intense fellowship that we don't enjoy having, but we do have it because honestly, we're different people. When you marry somebody, you don't cease to exist as a person and then only exist as a couple. I'm still an individual within our marriage, and so is she. She has her own opinions and her own point of view. I have my own, and both opinions and points of view can be valid at the same time in a given context, in a given circumstance. So what do you do at that point? Who's wrong? Well, maybe neither one of you are, but you've got to find a way to make this work and come together. And we both have different opinions, so we fight a lot. But we love each other, and we do these things.
But then
right?
at the end of it, we're like,
I don't want to fight with you anymore. Yeah, right. That's how we end a lot of our fights.
And we understand we're on who's the real
anymore.
enemy. It's the enemy. He's the real enemy trying to break us apart, and so we have to remember that.
And once we remember that, this brings us to step number 1 is this. You need to fight for rather than against. You need to fight for rather than against. I mean, let's get real. Every couple and even friends, brothers, sisters, moms and dads, which would be married most of the time. Siblings, mom and child, cousins, every single person has the ability to get in an argument with someone else, to fight. And you need to understand that there is a future, that if you want that future relationship, if you want that relationship to remain intact, then you need to fight accordingly. Rather than just, I'm mad and blah, and blah, and blah, and blah. There's a person on the other side of those words. A person that you care about and you want things to continue with, right? That's why you got married in the first place. You wanted to build a life with someone, so why would you disrespect them and treat them horribly, terribly, just because you're disagreeing with them at the time? It's not cool. It's not cool. We've got to adjust, and we've got to start saying, okay, you seem like the enemy right now, but I'm going to fight for our marriage instead of my point. I'm going to say that you are more important than my opinion, so where's the middle ground that we're going to meet in at this point in time? We fight about our kids. We fight about money. We fight about the future. The list goes on. But you got to fight for one another rather than against.
Yeah. And so, and like Pastor Ben said, this can go for it really can go for any kind of a relationship. It can. So my dad and I, we never see eye to eye. I'll say that.
We don't always, we never
don't.
do.
The only thing we see eye to eye on really is Jesus. So, but it can just be for my childhood and things that happened in my childhood. My dad and I just don't have a very close relationship, and it wasn't anything he did to me, but just circumstance. And so I'm just now kind of getting close to my dad, and since all those years of just being so stubborn with each other and wanting our own opinion to be heard, we were fighting against each other all the time. And because of that, that really put a huge strain on our relationship. And now I'm in my 30s trying to figure out how to get close to my dad, and he's in his 60s trying to figure it out as well. But it's hard because we're both adults, and he still looks at me as, I'm his kid. But, when you get to a certain place, you're like, Dad, I need you to look at me like an adult. Like, I'm on your level as it comes to, I have an opinion too. You can't just look at me and say it's my way or the highway anymore. I'm an adult. I have something to say in here. And so we're working through that. But like I told Ben, I said, I've got to figure out this secret that my dad is not the enemy. that the devil
Yep.
is trying so hard to tear me and my dad apart. Because if he does, that means I won't go to his house. That means my kids won't see their grandkids. That means that, all these different relationships are hurt because of one single relationship that was torn apart in the very beginning, but all these people suffer. And so I have to realize my dad's not the enemy, that the enemy is doing it to us, trying to tear us apart. So if there's anything worth fighting for, though, really worth fighting for, it's the future of a relationship with someone that you care about.
Absolutely.
And we're really focusing on marriage today. But like I said, any of this can be put for any relationship. I have to really focus on the future of the relationship I want with my dad, because my dad's not going to be here forever. And I'm realizing that. And I wasted so many years that I could have been close to my dad because of my own pride and being so stubborn and wanting to be looked at as an adult, that I need to get past it and realize that he's my dad and he loves me, and he may not see the way that I see things, but he still loves me. And so today with marriage, fight for your marriage rather than against your spouse. You have to fight for it. Fight for those relationships that matter. Start your fights like this, okay? So we don't always do this, but we're trying to, take deep breaths, okay? So I still want to be married to you after all this is over, okay? But there's a problem and we need to talk about it, okay?
Right,
So Ben will come in the room sometimes and he'll say, okay, don't take this the wrong way. I'm like, don't say that.
I know, when you start like that,
when you
it
just go ahead and
sets it
say
up.
that, I'm like, or now I see myself like, okay, I'm going to say something, but just hear me out. And he's like, what? I'm
Yeah,
like, but I'm
you
setting
just
you
know.
up. Like, I'm
You
trying
just
to, like,
know.
I'm not saying it in a mean way, but just hear me out, okay? Because we've gotten to know each other. We can't just say blunt things, or what? We have to look at each other and say, okay, I love you right now, but you're really annoying. You're getting on my nerves, or whatever it is. But I have to fight the fact that Ben has feelings, and it's not just about me and my opinion and what I want to be met with, but it's him as well. And so we have to say it with love. That's the second thing. Whatever we say, we have to say it with love. When you're arguing, when you're fighting, we have to say these things in love. And so, not you're being an idiot.
Yeah, that's probably, like, that statement is never going to be said in love. I'm sorry if you're just like, if bells are going off in your mind, like, on the way here, you're driving to church, you're so stupid, like, that's just never going to work for love. It's
So we're
not
telling
gonna
you,
work.
if you're doing that, please stop, because it's not working. But whatever you're feeling at the moment, if you're feeling upset, it's 9 times out of 10 not the best thing for you to say anything. Like, there have been times when Ben and I, not recently, but early on in our marriage, we've been married for 15 years this year, which I still can't believe that, but we, early on in our marriage, we would, just like dig our heels in, you know what I mean? And just like, this is happening, he would be quiet and I would talk. But now we literally are like, okay, I just need a minute. Like, I just need to go in the other room, because I don't want to say something to him that's he'll remember. You remember words. I remember words from when I was a kid and being bullied from 25 years ago. You know what I mean? When I was 10 years old, or even further than that. I remember those things because words can either bring life or death. And that's what the word says, that your tongue is so powerful that it can bring life or death. And that's why we have to be so careful with what we say. And so we have to say it with love. Not just, saying what you're feeling, because usually those angry things come out. And so when you're angry, you're going to say things that are angry, things that make people feel bad. And much of what we say in anger doesn't really reflect exactly how we're feeling as a whole, but in that moment, it's that emotional response.
Well, you're just at a boiling point, and what happens to a pot that's just left on boil? Like, if you got potatoes or you got whatever it is in there, and you leave it boiling, it'll boil right over the top, and it just makes a mess. And that's what happens when we are not careful with our words.
Yeah.
When we are angry, we boil over, and it makes a mess of our relationship. It takes days, sometimes weeks or months to repair the damage of words said at the boiling point. Like, at the height of our emotional response, that is honestly, most people are like, yeah, you need to talk about it. No, you don't. Not at that moment. You need to be able to think clearly, be calm, and communicate well rather than just saying what comes to mind.
Exactly.
That's just going to hurt somebody.
Because that's when the most damage is done, and then when it's done, it's like it's over. And at that point, if you're not really feeling that what you're saying, but it comes out, that is going to show the person that's what you're feeling, because they're going to hear that. And a lot of things that there's something that a pastor once told us, that there's truth in everything that you say. In some way, there's truth in everything that you say. And so you may not be feeling at the point, but maybe over time, you're just like, oh, you're so selfish. But if you come to somebody and say that, you're like, you're the most selfish person I've ever met. That's pretty harsh. I mean, really, have you met everybody? I mean, I've met some pretty selfish people, but when you say that, it really can damage. And so we want to make sure that, when everybody's yelling, no one's listening. You know what I mean? 50%, listening is 50% of the conversation. It's like when you're talking having coffee with somebody. If you talk the whole time and they don't say anything, did you really have a conversation? No, you didn't. So we have to make sure that the best time to have a conversation that will positively affect our relationships is when we are calm. We have to be calm. And you only can usually say things in love when you're calm.
Yes, and here's the reality behind communication. If you are trying to successfully communicate, you need to listen to what the other person is saying. That sounds, good word, Pastor.
Light bulb.
That sounds so basic, but how little do we do it? It sounds so basic, but we're just not doing it. You have to listen to what the other person is saying and then decide on a response that will build the relationship rather than tear it apart. Now, here is the strategy. So don't just be thinking about everything that you want to say while the other person is talking to you. Right? Fellas? Come on, boys. Come on. And ladies, I'm sure your minds have a hard time focusing too. My wife also, she tells me, I've got 100 drawers open in my mind at the same time. Right? That's just the way the female mind works so often. I've got a half a drawer open, and I'm just looking in, and she's got 100. So things are complicated, but that doesn't mean that we can't communicate well, And so don't just be thinking about what you want to say. I've had bosses that were just sitting waiting for their turn to talk. They weren't listening to a word I was saying, and it made me go, I don't want this job anymore.
Or
don't do that in your marriage.
You don't care about me.
Yes, don't do that in your marriage. Don't be putting your spouse in a place where in their mind they may be saying, you're a jerk, I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
And you may be completely right in your point. True. You may be right as rain. I mean, 100 people would tell you are right. But at the same time, you don't know what they're feeling in that moment and why they're feeling that, or why something is, they're reacting to something. There have been times when something small will happen and Ben's like, whoa, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, okay, do you feel this way because of this? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe, or something that's happened in my childhood that just sparked an experience that it was not good for me. And I feel like I'm that little kid again. And I'm just like, no, I have to be in control. I didn't have control back then. I'm in control now, And then he's like, maybe you feel this way because of this. And I'm like, no, maybe.
You read my mail.
But it's at the same time, when you communicate more and you listen more, then you realize what the other person is saying before you even have to really get down to the roots of it. You know what I mean? When you get to know somebody and you get to know their faults and their mistakes and the things that they've gone through, you understand, that's why you reacted that way. It wasn't me, really. It was because you were upset about this. And so you have to see them. You have to.
Yeah. And so once you are listening to the other person, and a conversation may come in segments. You may have to sit and think and process what they've said, but you need to put together the proper response. A good, positive response that's going to build a relationship, that's going to show them that you love them, not that you're just annoyed with them and wish they would go away and leave you alone, right? Come on, married people. We're being real today. You've all thought that about your spouse at one point or another. Even newlyweds sometimes can get cross with each other, and that you just need to have a little bit of distance for a few minutes before coming back together. So now, next step is this: see them. See them. And I'm going to explain what this means. See, marriages and some relationships tend to go on autopilot after a while. That's just reality. We tend to take it's just like water. We take the path of least resistance. We get into a routine and we're just going. Marriages especially, you just put your head down. You work for that better future. You work for that better life for yourself and for your spouse and for your kids and you're just doing all these things and you get into a routine. And when we do these things, routine can be so effective for getting things done and making sure a lot of things are working properly. However, sometimes in the routine, we can relax on things that really matter. And so one of the things that really matters is sometimes we tend to stop noticing one another. And I am extremely guilty, and see if this comes to mind for you. I'm extremely guilty of, it's morning time, it's time to get up. We've got our morning routines. You're making your bed, you're changing your clothes, you're brushing your teeth, you're getting around for breakfast, you're doing things, right? I've been extremely guilty of getting up, and we're both doing our routines, and I've walked through a room that she has been in 2 or 3 times and not even looked at her. Almost like she's a piece of furniture that's in there that I just know is there, and I just don't need it right now. We've got to move beyond just assuming that, yeah, you're here, it's cool. You need to see them. You need to make some eye contact and say, hi. Right? Hi. I love the fact that I get to see you today. Right? Good morning. It's great that we're married. I love the fact that we're married together. How much repair work would that do to a marriage that has been strained and everyone's just avoiding and annoyed with each other and just avoiding each other? How much repair work would that do if that was happening on a daily basis, where you are valuing one another? You're seeing each other as someone that's there and present, not just like a chair that's over in the corner that you don't need to sit in right now, right? I'm preaching to myself right now because I need to do this better every day, not just on the days that I remember. It needs to be an established part of my routine because I do that. We'll pass through and I'll even brush her shoulder and not even notice that I walked by her. And that's bad husbanding, if that's a word, right? It's bad husbanding. We've got to see each other. We got to notice that we're there, and we got to connect, right? Emotionally speaking, whatever that may be, because she is more important to me than the chair in the corner. And I need to act like that.
Well, and I think it's hard sometimes, especially with kids in the mix. So we have a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old, and mornings, and they're both girls, so mornings can be a little crazy. And Ben feels outnumbered already because we have 2 girls, me, and 2 girl cats. So he is just like, I'm the only man in this place. And
all girls and all hair all over me all the time.
Hey, I just cut off 7 inches, so come on, give me a break
but
here.
So often I'm just like, hair, there's something touching me.
So yesterday
and I'm stringing it, ladies, hey, girls' hair is just stuck in my beard or in my hair or something.
Yesterday we were eating dinner and I look over at him and there's this huge wad of hair. I don't know where it came from. And I'm like, let me get that for you. And he's like, see, every time. He's like, your hair's all over me. But he's seen those things, but it's those things we see. We see the issues and the problems and the worries and the hang-ups of life and the stresses, and those things are easier to see because it seems like there's just more of them, and that's what's trying to kind of grab at our attention. And, when there's a problem, when there's a stress in the house, it needs to be fixed, and we understand that. But when that happens and all the negativity is building up, we forget to see the positive things about each other. We forget sometimes. We forget to really see. And like Pastor Ben said, not to really see them like, oh, you're here. It's to see, I see you. You know what I mean? It always makes me think of that movie Avatar.
Oh, yeah.
But that's really cheesy. But I'm just saying,
it's
he's
cheesy,
like, I see you.
And I may have stolen the see them idea from that, but it works. And
it does. It works.
It fits so well. It illustrates it so well.
So they're saying,
us.
I see you, and I saw all of you, all the mistakes, all the things, but I also see you as a person, that you matter to me. And so you have to let them know that you're in this with them. That's the biggest key, is you have to be committed. So this is for any relationship. If you're going to be a friend, be a friend. Be a good friend. Don't be that friend that they can't count on. Don't be the friend that's always wishy-washy or whatever. Be a good friend. If you're going to dedicate yourself to making your relationships with your parents or your children or the rest of your family better, do it. Be the person that you want somebody else to be to you. And in your marriage as well, you have to be able to fight for them. You have to be able to say things in love, and you have to be able to see them, really see them for everything that they are. Not for everything you want them to be, but everything they are, because they're not you. And I have to remind myself of that all the time, that I'm a very, very, and you'll ask any of my team, I'm a very, very driven person. I am very driven. And I've always been like that. And and I hold like myself up here. So sometimes I hold everybody else up there, and that's wrong. They're not me. And if I want to hold myself to those expectations, that's okay. But it's not right for me to do it for everybody else. And sometimes that's how I feel. I'm like, well, I did this, I did the laundry, or I washed the dishes, and like, you gonna help? What are you doing? And Ben is like, if you'll just make me a list, like, I will help you. I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? It's like, if you would have just asked, instead of being all huffy puffy and saying, well, why aren't you doing this? It's like, guys they don't notice, ladies, okay? You're gonna have to tell them. They don't notice, okay? They don't notice the pile of laundry piling up. They don't notice all these things, and it's not because they don't care. It's just, that's just not who they are. They just don't see a lot of the details. And so sometimes if you need help, just ask. Just ask him. So I made Ben a list, and it's on the fridge, and he does laundry, and he sweeps the house every other day, and he cleans out the cat's litter.
Yes.
I mean, there's certain things he does.
And a solid strategy, if this is like ringing bells for you and you're like, I'm sticking this in tomorrow, I'm making my list right now, Pastor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say it in love.
Make sure, yes,
Write
please
it in
say it in love. Make sure your significant other agrees to it, not begrudgingly is like, here, do this, or I hate you.
Exactly.
Like, talk, have a conversation. Maybe this is your first building conversation, positive, strength building, relationship building conversation you can have for the future. We can practice.
One thing that we figured out is our love languages have changed as we've grown, and we both have acts of service. That's our main love language. So that can be really tricky when you're both acts of service, because he feels love when I do things for him. So he's like, I'm gonna let Heather do it. You know what I mean? But then I feel loved when he does things for me. So if I don't feel like I'm having help, then I don't feel loved in the same way with him. So that's why we had to sit down. We had a conversation. We listened to both of each other's sides, and we came up with a solution. He said, okay, I need you to make me a list. Because he said, I feel like you're having to ask me all the time, and I forget. So if you just make me a list, I can just go check it and see what I need to do. And it has been wonderful.
Yeah, well, I haven't exactly been looking at the list the past couple of weeks, so I need to kind of just renew myself in the list. I'm getting the sweeping done, but some other things have probably fallen off the radar.
He understands how important it is to me, though, because he knows my love language is acts of service, and so he understands it's important. So relationships can be complicated. We have understood that. You guys know that. You live them day in, day out. It can be the worst part of your life, or it could be the best part of your life. You have to make the choice.
Yeah.
Are you going to fight for each other? Are you going to see each other? Are you going to say things in love? And this is going to take time. If this is something that you're not used to, it's going to take time, but you can do it. And there's a relationship that is so key, because if you don't have him in your life, if you don't have Jesus in your life, then all of this, it's not going to come out the way it's supposed to. Because God helps us change to be more like him, to be more good, to be more kind, to have more love, more patience, self-control, those kind of things. And so the most important relationship that you could have in your life is Jesus. And if you don't have him today, or you need a restart, it can happen for you. So it doesn't matter if you've never been to church before, or you're a lifelong Christian, like we said earlier. You may just need a fresh start. You say, well, I know God and I have a relationship with him, but I just don't feel like it's been that good. I feel like I've been talking maybe, and I just haven't been listening to God, or I just don't feel like I'm the best husband that I can be, the best wife I can be. That can change today.
It absolutely can. And maybe we didn't take the finer points of what we talked about today from the Bible, but we did. What we can take away from what we learned about and taught about is that marriages and healthy relationships are important to God. He wants them for you. He wants these benefits, or the benefits of those things, being good and quality and top-notch for you. He wants it for you. And so we work through some of the hows and the whys and the what fors and all that, but in reality, when we come down to it, what we're really trying to come down to is being in a good relationship with Jesus. A good God-centered relationship that will not just solve every problem right away. It won't make everything perfect. Perfect is heaven, not here. So just eliminate that expectation right now. This world, this place will never be perfect, and that's okay. Because we're going to try and we're going to do our best to make it the best place it can be in the name of Jesus. But the reality is, heaven is that perfect place, and if you want the opportunity to be there, you got to have Jesus to do it. You got to have Jesus to get there. There's no other way. And so, listen, if you want that for your future, I'm ready to introduce you to Jesus today. Right here, right now. If you're just feeling like, man, some things in my life have been going on, I don't know, I don't have all the answers. Maybe I don't even believe everything that they talked about here today, but I know something needs to change. Why don't you take step one, and then we'll work through those details together. I'm ready and willing to do it with you. I want to walk with you through this journey that will last the rest of your life. But it takes the first step, and that's Jesus. Now, maybe you've been a Christian for a while, and you just really need to renew some sentiment. Like, Jesus is there, but he's kind of been like that distant cousin over here off to the side. That he's been that chair in the corner that you kind of just pass by every single day and don't take much notice. We need to see him. We need him central in our lives, and we can do that too. That if you want to make either one of those decisions today, if you want to get it, just tell him in your heart right now, Jesus, I'm coming for you. I'm getting you in my life, and have some seriousness about it. Just be willing to just make a decision and stick with it. And we're going to pray here in just a moment, and I just want to give this opportunity. Why don't you pray with me today? And church family, if you'd be willing, can we just pray and support those right alongside them? Support those making this decision today. Pray with me online if that's you as well. Are we ready? Come on, it's easy. We can do it. It's going to be on the screen for you. Jesus, I want to live for you. I believe you died on the cross for my sins. Be my Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Man, good. If you made that decision today for the first time or first time in a long time, I want to say good job. I'm so proud of you because you've just taken the first step in a journey that's going to last the rest of your life. And believe me, I want to be a part of this thing with you. Yeah. Pastor Heather and I, we've got somewhere for you to go with this. So it's not just, oh, I've made my decision. I'm good. I'll see you next year. No. This is ongoing. We've got some growth that needs to happen inside of our hearts and our lives. We got some bad habits we got to work out. We got some marriages that we got to be stitching back together that they're having some trouble, right? Come on, somebody. We've got somewhere to go in this life, and we need to make this world the best place possible in the name of Jesus. And we need to tell other people about Jesus because, honestly, for a long time, I've been going to heaven. But that's not good enough. I want other people to go to heaven because of me, because of what I'm doing, because of what we're all doing together. And so we can help get as many people in heaven as possible and experience that perfect life that God originally intended.
And if you did make that decision, like he said, we're so proud of you, but we want to hear about it. We want to know. So that connection card that you have in front of you, that yellow card, go ahead and fill that out. And if you are a first-time guest, we want to know. So take your yellow card to the yellow room. Right out there, they have a free gift for you today. So fill that out. There's also a place on there that you can mark to get on our mailing list for our newsletter. Also, just other opportunities for a welcome party. That's just an introduction to our church where we feed you free food. And say that like 3 times, my goodness. So you come, we have
Words.
childcare, all that kind of stuff, and it's all for free, but we just want to love on you because we want something for you, not from you. And so take that to the Yellow Room. For those of you who wanted to give or have a connection card and you're not a first-time guest, you can drop it into the generosity box as you walk out today. But we want to follow up with you and get you connected so that you can continue on your journey. One step isn't enough. You got to continue on and continue on. It's kind of like, I think of it as you're in the middle of a river and you're on rocks. If you stay there, eventually the river's going to rise and you're going to be swept away. But you have to continue on with your next steps, because when you do, you continue to grow and you get to the other side, and it's just so much better than in the middle of a river and you're going to be swept away. So remember that. Get connected so we can follow up with you. But next Sunday, we are having the Easter prayer night right here. We're going to have it online and in person. It'll be on YouTube for the online, but we're going to meet at 6:30 p.m. here in person and online, and just pray for Easter. We're going to pray for the people that God is bringing. We're going to pray for just the day, for our kids, volunteers, all the different things that have to do with Easter, and we want you to be a part of it. So please make plans to do that. Have a wonderful Sunday, guys. Stay dry, and we will see you here back next Sunday at Great day.